Well, this is part two of getting beyond automatic on your camera, learning how it works. So we're going to take one step further. And again, don't sweat. You can always put it on program mode or auto mode, but I don't want you to, okay? So when the camera's on automatic, the computer decides what it will take to make a good picture, a properly exposed picture. The camera does the thinking. It kind of reads the light, then figures that, okay, this is what the settings should be. So the aperture, the lens opening, the shutter, how fast a picture is taken, and in some cases, the ISO, the speed of the film, will adjust it automatically. And when one changes, it affects the other, and blah, blah. We'll learn about that a little bit later on. So here's a picture, average lit. The computer would look at that and see the sky, see the ground, set the meter, and if it's on program mode, you probably have it on landscape setting. So you choose a smaller aperture. The smaller the aperture, the greater the depth of field. You'll learn that in our next class. And there you go. So to prevent camera shake, however, because if the light is kind of dim, like you're shooting a picture inside somewhere with not too much light, and the camera's on auto mode or program mode, the flash will come on automatically if the shutter speed is too slow. And what we mean by that, if the shutter has to stay open to catch enough light to make a proper picture, if it's much beyond a 30th of a second or 15th of a second, you're going to, on a relatively wide angle setting, you're going to get a blurry picture caused by the movement of the camera when the shutter is opening and closing. So what happens is the camera turns on its flash, and the flash is what stops the action. It's a millisecond of light that goes out, and it doesn't really matter what the shutter speed is. Well, to most extent it doesn't matter, but the camera will automatically usually set the camera at 1/25th of a second and probably leave the f-stop the same place. But the point is the light will stop the action and take the picture, and you'll probably get a crappy picture much like this one here. It's flat lit. You might like that. Well, you'd like it if you're a cop and this is a mug shot, but outside of that it's pretty useless. The eye's got red eye in it, harsh shadows behind his head. I would consider that a very uninteresting picture. And if you brought that to class to say, here's a portrait of mine, I would say, okay, well, try again. Didn't quite make it. So the camera flash is harsh lighting, and I talked about the red eye. See how now the red eye is caused by the flash on the camera, the light bouncing against the back of the eye, and resulting in the red color. You can get rid of it later on, but anyway, the general look of that picture is pretty bad. So in these conditions, if you turn the flash off, you'll need a tripod, or you need to set the camera down on a table, holding it really, really steady and taking the picture. And I'm going to demonstrate that in our next class. So, oh yes, I'm saying here, now we're going to get even more technical. So if you're having problems with the previous video, I don't know, you might like to take some Valium or some nerve reducer, but you can do this, and we're going to practice it. You can always phone me up if you don't understand something. So now what we did in class, and you can do this at home by getting your camera, is we paired up and we had partners help each other find these different things on the camera. So here's a bunch of cameras, and what I want you to do, and you can stop this tape each time, but find the program mode. The program mode is a mode where almost everything is automatic. You can control some things, but generally, if you don't want to worry about taking a picture, stick it on program mode and you'll get a pretty good picture. Auto mode, this is one step up from program mode. This is where everything gets locked in by the camera, and it controls more and more things depending on what kind of picture you're taking. If you look at these dials underneath this, oh my goodness, I made a mistake here. Text is showing that shouldn't be there, but look underneath the word text and you see a little circular dial, and you see the auto setting, and under the auto setting you have, looks like somebody swimming, then you have a picture of a head, then you have a picture of a person with a moon, then a picture of the mountains, and a picture of flowers. So when you turn that knob to the selector so that it's selected the person running, then what the camera does, you're taking an action shot, so we're going to set the camera up for action shots. The next one is portrait. It'll change the setting to make the portrait work. With the little moon, it says you're taking a night shot, so it'll open up the ISO and allow you to take a picture in low light, etc., etc. We'll explain these next week. Anyway, that's what auto mode is. Shutter priority, and it's either an S or a T. S stands for shutter, T stands for time. That's when, if you set it on that setting, you control the shutter speed, but the camera will automatically adjust the aperture and sometimes the ASA. So shutter priority is you control how quickly the picture is taken. Aperture priority, A, you set the button to A, then you will control how wide open the iris is, whether it's wide open or shut down, and the camera will adjust by changing the shutter speed or maybe the ISO. That's aperture priority. Manual mode, where the M is, and that's where you're in charge of everything. If you take a look at that picture on the bottom underneath the text where it says ISO 400, and you see a P mode, that says program mode, and right beside it you see a -1, 1, 0, 1, and plus 1. That's the camera's light meter. And when you take a picture, in most cases that little black dot should be right in the middle under 0. That means the camera thinks the picture is properly exposed. Under manual mode, you're going to have to change your aperture or your shutter or your ISO, and we'll tell you why what you would change in the next class, until that little black line comes in the middle. If you go to take a picture and it's under -2, there will not be enough light coming in, and if it's at +2, there'll be too much light coming in most cases. ISO and ASA, this is a speed that the chip will record a picture. The smaller the number, the more light it needs to take the picture. The larger the number, the less light it needs. The lower the number, the higher the quality of the picture. The higher the number, the lower the quality of the picture. And we'll demonstrate this in class later. Find the flash setting. Usually it's a little sign on your camera showing a little lightning bolt. When you push that, it'll probably trigger you through on, off, red eye, fill. I'm not sure if there's other settings, but I want you to find where that is so you can at least turn the flash off. My favorite setting, if you're going to use flash, is fill flash, because with fill flash, it'll expose the room properly, but it might be a slow shutter speed, so there could be some camera blur, but the flash will come on to illuminate the subject properly and stop any movement. Sometimes these pictures got pretty creative looking, but it's not a bad setting to use if you're using flash. And find your camera meter, and this is a little where you see the -1 plus -2, +1 and +2. Look through your viewfinder and see where that setting is on your camera, so when you change your settings, you're going to know where to go to make these changes. So you find all those things, find out where they are, and what we asked you, I think I've given you some homework assignment to take some pictures with the flash on, the flash off, backlit, side lit, front lit, all that kind of stuff. And if you want to muck around with shutter priority and aperture priority, you can, but we're going to be teaching more details about that in the next class. All right, take care.